All right, so yesterday's videos talked about continents. Continents is basically taking all the land that covers the earth and dividing it into big chunks. And we talked about why we have continents, because if you were to come flying down in a parachute from an airplane and you landed right here and you're injured and you need help and you call for help and you say, where are you? Where are you? And you say, I'm on land. That's not really good enough. We're going to need to have labels for that land. And so map makers divided that land into continents. It's all the land on Earth divided into large chunks. Remember, the word continent is a big word. It helps you remember it's a big chunk of land. And we talked yesterday that there are 7 continents. And here are the names. You need to know those names. You need to be able to label a map. If I give you a map like this, you need to be able to label that map with the names of these 7 continents. And that's going to be something you will be quizzed on. We talked about some different strategies to remember that. We talked that some people refer to these continents combined as Eurasia, but we know separate they are Europe and Asia. We talked about they chose that space for separation based on some mountains that are there. So you need to remember that the small one is Europe and the big one is Asia. We also talked about that one continent, Africa, is home of the longest river, the Nile River, the hottest desert, the Sahara Desert, and almost 2,000 languages are spoken there. We did talk about one continent also having some pretty cool animals there, like koalas and kangaroos. That would be over here, this kind of island-like continent, Australia. Another continent that we have is Antarctica. And this is one, it's really easy to remember where it is. We know that Arctic means cold. And we know that there's 2 really cold places on Earth, the North Pole and the South Pole. Well, Antarctica tells you which one it is. It's the bottom or below. It's the land that's really cold, bottom or below of the Earth. So that is Antarctica. And then with the Americas, we know that it is North America to the north and South America to the south. Okay, so we did practice that dance. You can rewatch that video on your own time. But we know that we need to know what continent we live on. Well, we live right here. So we live in the continent of North America. If I ask you what continent, your answer needs to be a continent. We do live in York. But if I ask you what continent we live on, you can't tell me York because York is not a continent. Now, continents are really big. And so if we go down and say, okay, Mayday, Mayday, I need some help. I'm in North America. Well, it's better than saying I'm on land, but it's not going to get you help very quickly. So continents get split up into smaller countries. And if you take a look, this map shows you all the different countries in the world. So very many. Countries are unique because each country has its own government that's in charge of it and its own flag. In fact, the Olympics is actually a competition between countries. That's why they come out with their own flag all proud at the opening and closing ceremonies. There are 195 total countries in the world, believe it or not. 54 countries make up the continent of Africa. 44 make up even the small continent of Europe. And in our very own North America, there are 23 countries, a lot of them some very small islands off of the coast there. So we do need to know what country we live in. So if we focus on North America and we are right here, what I want you to remember is anytime you think of the word country, I want you to put your hand on your heart. And if you think about when we do that, we always put our hand on our heart when we're pledging to the flag, because we know countries have flags, and every morning we pledge allegiance to our flag. So if you say the pledge, you say the name of the country. You say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And so you'll never forget what country we live in if you put your hand on your heart when you think of the word country. So if we zoom in on North America here, you can see not only our country, the United States of America, sometimes called the United States, but you can see some of the other countries in the continent as well. And so you do need to know we live in North America, the continent. We live in the country, country, hand on our heart, like we say the pledge, the United States of America. But even if we say, Mayday, Mayday, I need help, I'm in the United States of America, that's still a really big place. So we need to get even more specific. So let's think about what we could break our country down into. And to do that, let's think about our country's name. United States of America. United is another word for together. So our country's name literally means a bunch of states that are together in America. Now, our country is not very old. We were only born about 238 years ago. And when we were born, we were very small, the same way you were much smaller when you were born. When you were born, the United States of America only had 13 states, which you see there in red. But the same way you got bigger as you got older, our country got bigger as our country got older. And today we make up all of what you see there in red. We're no longer just 13 states, we're now 50 states. And you do need to know which state you live in. Now, if you notice, continent is the biggest word. It's also the biggest chunk of land. Country, a little bit smaller of a word, a smaller chunk of land. State, yet again, a smaller word, a smaller chunk of land. If you want to know, here's all of our 50 states. You live right here where that smiley face is looking at you. We live in the state of Pennsylvania. So we live in the continent of North America, the country, hand on your heart, United States of America, and we live in the state of Pennsylvania. If I say to you, what country do you live in? If you answer Pennsylvania, you're wrong. We might live in Pennsylvania, but it's not a country, it's a state. Now, the next link is going to be to this video here. And in this video, there's an amazing artist that is going to basically draw the entire United States of America and divide it into all 50 states. And for each state, it's going to tell you not only the name of the state, but beforehand, it's going to tell you the name of a very important city in that state, and that's the capital. That's where the government of that state works. And it's also going to have a picture that represents each state. So feel free to enjoy that video, and no actual written work for today.